Imagine standing in front of a mirror. On the first day, you notice a small crack. It looks insignificant, just a scratch on the surface. But as days pass, the crack doesn't disappear. It spreads, branching out like a spider web, slowly covering the entire glass. One morning, you look again and realize your reflection is no longer whole. You are still there, but distorted, fractured, no longer yourself. People like to believe that madness happens in an instant. One day you're fine, the next day you've lost your mind. But the truth is different. Madness is not a sudden thunderclap. It's more like water seeping into stone, wearing it down bit by bit until it finally breaks. It's the accumulation of cracks over time, born from all the moments you thought you could endure, all the pain you thought you had buried, all the nights you quietly swallowed your tears. So if one day you no longer recognize yourself, is that madness, or is it simply the truth that has been buried for too long, finally demanding to be seen? You begin to realize that madness is not the beginning. It is the outcome of a long, silent journey, a journey you never chose. And to truly understand it, you have to go back to where the very first crack appeared, the place where everything began. When home is no longer safe. Imagine being a child, and the place that should have been your safest refuge slowly turns into a battlefield. Your father doesn't come home with warmth. He comes home with a roar, with the smell of alcohol, with anger that seems to appear from nowhere. Your mother remains silent, silent to the point of terror. She sits there with her eyes down, pretending not to hear, pretending not to see. And you sit at the dinner table with a small heart beating so fast it feels like it wants to escape your chest. Dinner is no longer a time to share. It is a war zone. Words become sharp knives, glances turn into arrows. No one apologizes, no one admits anything. And you learn to hold your breath, to make yourself invisible, to avoid being the spark that sets off another explosion. For others, home is a place to rest. But for you, it is a minefield. You memorize every creak of the floorboards, every corner where you can hide, every sign that warns of an approaching storm. You walk through your own house as if stepping on landmines. One wrong move, and everything could blow up. Yet the deepest wound doesn't come from the yelling. It comes from the moments when your family steps outside and smiles. Your father suddenly becomes the polite gentleman, your mother the gentle lady. And no one would ever guess that just minutes earlier, your home was hell. That false display of everything is fine is the sharpest blade, because it makes you doubt your own feelings. Even as a child, you start to question yourself. Did you imagine it all? Was the fear pounding inside your chest unreasonable if everyone else can smile? Why are you trembling when truth is buried? You begin to lose the ability to distinguish what is real from what is fake. And from that moment on, you stop trusting your own emotions. The most terrifying thing is not the screaming, but the denial. Because when adults refuse to acknowledge the pain, the child learns to doubt themselves. And when you grow up in that doubt, you no longer dare to trust your own heart. Ask yourself this as a child. Did you ever experience those moments when everyone around you smiled as if everything was fine, even though deep inside you knew it wasn't in those moments? Did you still believe in your feelings, or did you also learn to smile, to fold your fear away so no one could see it? That's when you learned your first lesson in survival. Wear a mask. If you cannot change reality, hide it. If fear cannot disappear, bury it deep inside, and you began to build a shell, a facade that would later become the face you showed to the entire world. When the mask consumes you, you grow up learning how to hide, No one teaches you this, yet you somehow know that to survive, you must learn how to please others. You become charming. You know when to smile, when to stay silent. You can read people's eyes, sense their moods, and shape yourself into whatever they expect you to be. To the outside world, you look like someone cheerful, likable, intelligent, magnetic. But inside you are empty, like a house that has burned down, its walls still standing, its windows still intact, but its soul long gone with the fire. You walk, you laugh, you speak. Yet what you feel is only a hollow void. The world often celebrates charm. People admire your ability to fit in, to say the right thing, to make others comfortable, but they never see the price you pay. Every smile, every witty remark is another cut separating you further from your true self. The better you become at playing the role, the more of yourself you lose. And here lies the truth most people never admit. Success does not always mean you are okay. Laughter does not always mean joy. Sometimes, both are nothing more than a perfect disguise for despair. A mask so convincing that, after a while, even you forget you are wearing it, until one day. The question creeps in: if you take away all the smiles, what is left of you? That question lingers, haunting you like a whisper that never fades. Are you truly living, or have you been acting for so long that you no longer remember who you are? If the answer chills you, then the mask hasn't just covered you, it has consumed you. The world may love the image you show, but love directed at an image never reaches the real heart behind it. And the most frightening part is this: even you are afraid to face it. You fear that if you remove the mask, there will be nothing worth keeping underneath. But no mask, no matter how carefully crafted, can last forever. One day, the cracks begin to appear, perhaps in a nightmare that jolts you awake. Perhaps in the moment you sit among a crowd and realize the loneliness has never left you. Or perhaps when you look in the mirror and see your own eyes staring back, hollow and dim. That is when you realize the mask can no longer hold. And the truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way back. The cracks widen, and your soul, after years of hiding, begins to rise and demand to be seen. When the mind collapses, there comes a point when your own body begins to betray you. The nights no longer offer rest. You lie awake, eyes wide open until morning, your mind spinning endlessly like a machine with no off switch. You can't remember the last time you slept deeply. Each sleepless night feels like a new cut carved into an already fractured mind. The following day, you find yourself quick to anger. Small outbursts, seemingly without reason, yet violent. People around you look confused, unable to understand why you've changed. What they don't see is the battle inside whispers that won't stop, thoughts that twist into paranoia, making every glance feel like a threat. And little by little, the blade turns inward. You begin to despise yourself, to question why you can't be like everyone else. Your mind once resembled a finely woven tapestry, crafted from thousands of threads of memory and emotion. But too many of those threads have been soaked in pain. And when sorrow seeps too deeply, the fabric can no longer hold. It tears apart, piece by piece, exposing the emptiness underneath. Then comes the moment of realization, striking like a blow to the heart. What breaks you is not the pain itself. Humans can endure pain sometimes for years. What truly breaks you is pretending you are not in pain, pretending to smile, pretending to be strong, pretending to be fine. That pretense doesn't just erode your soul, it destroys your trust in yourself. And so you begin to wonder, Perhaps what people call losing your mind isn't madness at all. Perhaps it is simply the soul saying, "I can't pretend anymore." Perhaps this collapse isn't punishment, but the final rebellion that forces you to face the truth. When you see it this way, you realize this is not the end. It is a turning point, a place where the collapse begins to transform into its own language, signaling that an even deeper darkness is waiting for you to step into. When the world turns into codes, you begin talking to yourself, not just passing thoughts, but real conversations. Sometimes it's comfort, sometimes it's arguments, sometimes it's screams echoing inside your mind. You pick up a pen and write everything down. The page becomes a battlefield of words. Chaotic scribbles, fragments without beginning or end, sentences repeated over and over like an obsession. To others, it's nonsense, but to you, it feels like a message. You walk down the street, catch a stranger's glance, and believe it's a signal. You hear a commercial on the radio and are certain the universe is speaking directly to you. Even a flickering light in a hallway turns into a code. The world, in your eyes, is no longer ordinary. It transforms into a labyrinth of symbols where every tiny detail carries meaning. And only you believe it's real. Others look at you and think you've lost your mind, but you feel as though you've discovered a secret language. Everything in life seems to whisper to you, as if an invisible hand is guiding your steps. What people call madness is often nothing more than the mind's desperate attempt to create order out of chaos. And here lies the cruel paradox. Madness is not the absence of meaning. Madness is seeing too much meaning everywhere, in everything. The mind cannot bear emptiness, so it invents stories, creates patterns, attaches significance to the smallest details, all to soothe a pain it cannot put into words. Ask yourself this: if every breakdown is really a cry for help, a plea from your soul to be noticed, would you still call it a sickness, or would you see it as the final attempt of a heart that longs to be seen, even in its most distorted form? Yet behind all these codes, behind the illusions your mind constructs, lies something deeper, a darkness you've avoided for far too long. And now, it waits for you to step inside. Madness is the cry of the soul. Carl Jung once said that what we call madness is often part of the process of individuation, the stage where a person is forced to confront the hidden darkness within themselves. It is not meaningless collapse. It is the doorway that compels you to face what you have long avoided. It feels as if you are being dragged down into the depths of the ocean. The water grows thicker, colder, heavier. Familiar sounds vanish, and the light above grows smaller until it no longer reaches you. Down there, at the very bottom, there is nothing left to hold on to, no solid ground beneath your feet. Only a suffocating silence and the pounding of your own heart, as if it were trying to scream into the void. From the outside, people see the breakdown and assume you are shattered. But the truth is different. Madness is not mere breaking. It is the scream against every layer of falsehood that has been piled upon you. It is the way the soul insists that it still exists, that it will not allow the truth to remain buried forever. And then comes the realization that chills you to the bone. Madness is not collapse. It is the final rebellion of the soul. When there are no other options left, the soul cries out to force you to see it, to stop you from pretending you are fine. So the question echoes within you. Will you dare to listen to that cry, to look directly into the darkness, or will you keep pretending to be safe, clinging to a mask that is already cracking slowly? You begin to understand. Only when you choose to listen, only when you find the courage to enter the darkness. Do you finally have the chance to begin the journey of healing? Healing begins with the truth. There comes a moment when you can no longer hold yourself together. You sit down with a blank page, your hands trembling, and let out what has been suppressed for far too long. Sometimes it's chaotic lines of writing. Sometimes it's sobs you can't contain. You allow the anger you've buried to surface. You give yourself permission to be weak, to collapse, to cry. Every tear that falls feels like a strike of a shovel breaking through the heavy soil that has covered your soul. That soil is thick, hard, and cold. It was formed by years of pretending, by every time you said "I'm fine" while your heart was quietly breaking. But with each tear, each stroke of the pen, each shaky breath, the soil begins to break apart, and in that breaking, you start to realize something important. Healing does not make you perfect. It doesn't erase scars. It doesn't turn pain into joy. What it does, in a way both simple and profound, is bring you back to what is real. Healing doesn't make you flawless, it makes you authentic. And in that authenticity, there is both pain and relief, both fragments of sorrow and a lightness you haven't felt in years. And then the question rises within you. Will you dare to face the pain in order to be honest with yourself for the very first time? Will you dare to look in the mirror and admit that you were hurt, that you were weak, that you were afraid instead of pretending it never happened? Because in that moment of honesty, something remarkable happens. As the heavy soil is dug up, you discover something beneath it, something still alive, still intact, still waiting to be reborn. You realize you were never gone. You were only buried, and now, the truth is slowly making its way back to you. You are buried, not broken. Imagine a seed buried deep in the soil. For a long time, it lies still under the heavy weight of darkness, cold and silent. To the outside, it seems gone, but when light touches it, when the rain falls, the seed begins to break open and grow. It was never dead. It was only waiting for the moment to rise. You are the same. You were never broken. You were only covered by the dust of years of pretending, by the weight of unspoken pain, by fears that were never given a name. And now, as that heavy soil is lifted, as the light of truth begins to reach you, you realize you can rise again. Madness is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the signal that your soul has refused to keep pretending. It is the knock on the door that forces you to return to yourself. And in this realization, you see that the journey was never about becoming someone new. It was always about remembering who you truly are. So ask yourself this: if tomorrow you were gone, what part of you would still echo the mask, or the truth, the illusion, or the person you were meant to be? If you walk away from this journey, you will remain buried under the old mask. Don't let that happen. Subscribe now, step into the light, step into the